Now back to a Richard French live special tribute on hallowed ground, the 150th commemoration of the Battle of Gettysburg.
The Medal of Honor was created during the Civil War to honor personal acts of valor above and beyond the call of duty. 63 men were awarded the Medal of Honor for their actions just from the Battle of Gettysburg. The medal, it would go to soldiers from both New York and New Jersey. Adhering to history is important to Rich Mendoza and others who make up the New Jersey regiment gathered during the commemoration for one of two blue and gray reenactments.
Small towns, specifically one in South Jersey called Mullica Hill, had a rally. They pulled together a town meeting in which they got 100 men to sign up to form what was called Company F. They had no idea what their future was all about. Farmers, school teachers, shop workers, you name it. Anybody that was interested in preserving our country, our America, signed up and decided to join and help with this fight.
They honor and remember not only those from the Garden State, but all those who came to Gettysburg from neighboring states and beyond.
Every pioneer and musician who could carry a musket went into the ranks. Even the sick and footsore, who could not keep up in the march, came up as soon as they could find their regiments, and took their places in line of battle. Well, it was a battle indeed.
Well, New Jersey mainly fought on the second and third day, which would be off to the south of us, and some over on Culp's Hill. But they had a lot of New Jersey troops that fought along with Dan Sickles out there on the advanced line on the Emmitsburg Road, and they took a terrible pounding as they're trying to hold on. What they do is they fire and fall back and fire and fall back and fire and fall back. And one of their batteries, Clark's New Jersey Battery, had one man who was cutting a notch in the stick every time they fired this one gun. There were 241 notches in that stick at the end of the second day's fight. So the gun just got red hot.
From this cupola atop the Lutheran Seminary School, a visitor gets a bird's eye view of the battleground. First-hand accounts from diaries, notes, and messages preserved at the Seminary Museum show that by and large, day 2 of the battle was a draw, even though both sides suffered heavy losses.
We had gotten our thin line into as good a shape as possible when a strong force emerged from the scrub wood in the valley, as well as I could judge, in 2 lines in echelon by the right, and opening a heavy fire. The first line came on as if they meant to sweep everything before them. We opened on them as well as we could.
The heavy fighting really began in earnest on July 2nd at around 4 p.m. Now we're moving south of the town of Gettysburg, just slightly, about a mile to Little Round Top, Devil's Den, places like the wheat field that people have probably heard about. And that was very confused fighting. Again, a lot of suffering by the day's end. There were about 4,000 soldiers wounded, killed, or captured just in the wheat field section of fighting alone, a very, very small place on the battlefield. And that ended up almost with the sides kind of still looking at each other. It wasn't really a Union victory or a Confederate victory, but it was a very, very heavy day's fighting, but neither side was willing to leave Gettysburg just yet.
At the U.S. Army War College, about 30 miles from the Gettysburg battlefield, today's military leaders learned from battles past. Given the strategic moves that eventually led to the defeat of Robert E. Lee's Confederate forces and ultimately turned the Civil War into a battle of attrition, ending at Appomattox 2 years later, it is no wonder that Gettysburg is studied here.
I think there are a lot of reasons why Gettysburg should be remembered. I think there's really at all the levels that we think of, and when we think of war, Gettysburg has a lot of resonance. At the tactical level, when you talk about just how the troops are operating on the field, there's incredible stories of valor and effort that are sort of timeless, men against fire sorts of issues. At the operational level of bringing armies together, the leadership of people like Lee and General Lee and General Meade and others, maneuvering to try to accomplish, to try to succeed in battle, to defeat the other army and to contribute to their countries or their sides achieving their policy aims. And then that's probably the last and most important level that we care about here at the War College, is the strategic level of war. When we think about how armed forces use to accomplish national policy aims, how each side, how opponents operate in war to impose their will on one another. And I think at all those levels, Gettysburg has a lot of interesting things to tell us.
Who are those people? They're your neighbors, they're your brothers, they're your friends. You pass that guy every day on the street. When he enlisted, you might hear something about him as he writes home to his family or writes home to his friends. You identify with that person. You know who he is. When you see his name on the list of killed at Gettysburg, you know, you have that feeling of, my God, look what he has sacrificed for us.
Those who sacrificed were not all men. Although we don't know their names, there is wide agreement among historians that many women participated directly in the battle, hair bobbed and dressed as men.
Coming up next, dark days on the battlefield as Union and Confederate forces collide.
And for all the violence, for all the losses, it wasn't them who died in vain. There were ultimate ends that were worth that sort of sacrifice.
And later, how visitors to Gettysburg remember those who lived and died there. This special tribute on hallowed ground, the 150th commemoration of the Battle of Gettysburg, will continue on Richard French Live.